Hi, I'm Paul Hans from the Startup Foundry. You're watching Marketing Reddit. Have an awesome product and tie it to a fantastic brand. If you have an awesome service that you would like to market to entrepreneurs and founders, get in touch with me at paul@thestartupfoundry.com. Thanks and enjoy the show. Okay, so let's talk about some of the branding on Reddit. You guys have that really cool alien, or you've
It
since
is
sold the
really cool.
company, but Reddit has this really cool alien. Um,
Well, thanks.
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, is that important to your startup?
Okay, well, I can tell you that that was something I doodled in marketing class. I was just bored in marketing, and I was like, you know what? We haven't really figured out how this startup's going to work, but I really wanted to have a mascot and something from the future. And because that way, if it's a time traveling mascot, you know that your startup wasn't a failure because the mascot had to have been able to travel back in time, right? So I figured that's a pretty good safety blanket. And Paul was not a fan of it. He actually really, really hated it at first, and he was like, "No one's going to take you seriously if you insist on having the little bug thing. Like, put it in the bottom right." But I really stuck to my guns, and and yeah, even was trying to convince Steve of its merits. But then I was just like, "No, listen, man, trust me. This is my world, so to speak. We got to go with this." I I certainly don't think Reddit has had the success it's had because of the Reddit alien. I mean, I'd love to think that, but that's just absurd. The reality is, if you can have something that is a great product or a great service, and in the case of Reddit, a mix of that and like a great community too. But if you can have something that is a great product or great service and tie it to a very memorable and at least good brand, that's a really great force. I look to like pets.com as an example for how a good mascot can't save just a poorly executed idea. Like I really like the pets.com sock puppet and it's kind of charming. But that's a classic example where this product service was just an epic fail and no mascot could win it over or could triumph over that. So yes, I take the mascot very, very seriously, and I spent way too much time drawing Reddit aliens. I haven't counted, but I've done at least 200 to maybe 300 variations of the Reddit alien for various holidays and sometimes for no reason at all, sort of like the Google Doodle. And I really think that actually went a long way towards giving people an incentive to come back to the site, if not to read the front page, but just to only see what the Reddit alien is doing next as part of this multi-day adventure. And it's been fascinating now seeing people with like Reddit alien tattoos. I can barely fathom and process that people now have tattooed on them a Reddit alien. I mean, I can't believe it. I really can't. And it's awesome. But I think the reason people do that is not because they like the way these ellipses form together, but it's because they feel a real strong attachment to a really great product. And yeah, so I don't know. I take that branding part seriously, but it can't save something that wasn't already good enough.
Okay, so let's look at just like a startup that might be reading the Startup Foundry right now. Let's say they have an awesome web app or any kind of app, right?
Mhm.
And and they're a lean startup. So how do they get really solid branding, even if they don't have like a lot of money to do it?
Okay, well, and I don't want to. Well, all right. So branding does not necessarily mean like have a cute mascot or even have a mascot. Everything that I've been associated with has been in some way consumer facing, and so it's a lot easier to think, oh, well, of course this needs some kind of humanizing face on it. Whereas if you're selling, business, I don't know, if you're selling software to lawyers, you probably don't need a cute mascot. But it wouldn't hurt to at least have a slightly distinctive brand. Uh, the way to do it, if you're on the cheat, that I know I'm going to catch flack for, and I didn't even realize it was such a controversial thing, are
Say
sites
99
like,
Designs.
yeah, 99 Designs and CrowdSpring. So I've never used it. I've recommended it to people, but that's such, if you really don't have any network of designers to reach out to. Like now, fortunately, I've got about three or four people who I know pretty well and who have actually done work for me, where I can farm out projects. And if it's like, oh, we need a new design for the LOL magnets box, like I have someone who can design all that. But you've got to build up that network. So in the short term, let's assume you don't have any friends who are in art school or in design school. which is always the first place to look. You should shake that friend tree and see what kind of talent falls out of it. But then after that, yeah, 99 Designs. I we did a partnership with CrowdSpring at Reddit to design a new Reddit t-shirt, and that's actually how we found designer license plate is her Reddit username, who I now work with all the time, who's incredibly talented. And she was a Redditor. And the way we found her was because of CrowdSpring. Uh, I know there are lots of people who hate that spec work, I guess it's called, where basically designers put in all this work and then you as the bidder just kind of choose the one you like and then the rest are kind of out of luck. I don't know. I'm not a designer, so I really don't know how this affects real designers, but I hope I don't get too much hate mail because that's what I'd recommend. Because for $200, you can get something that at least you're happy with and that could work. I mean, if you're doing something that requires, if you're doing something that is really, really user facing, where you're going to need more design work down the road. So like we can't imagine a Foursquare or a Gowalla with spec work because those badges would just be really hard to keep any consistency in design and all that sort of thing. I mean, design is important. And so the best case scenario is you just have a co-founder who has at least some aptitude in design, and or some aptitude for design and some ability there. But 99 Designs or CrowdSpring in the short term if you've got limited resources.
Great. Do you have any other advice for entrepreneurs that are just starting out with their startup? Like anything that you learned specifically from Reddit that other people could apply and learn from?
Oh, startup advice, startup advice. Okay. Start. That's my best one. That's the one I know. I know you can't succeed as a startup founder and if you don't actually start. The the thing that I am always trying to press on non or rather on technical founders, on CS people, and people who can actually build stuff, is that, and specifically like college students, is they typically have no idea just how awesome they are, or at least how much power they have in these conversations with folks who are like, I've got this great startup idea, and they're waving their hands, and they're like, I just saw the social network, it's going to be great, I'm inspired. The reality is like, if you can just build shit, just please build shit, because the cost of getting it up there is so damn cheap. Oh man, you're gonna have to bleep a lot of this. It's so damn cheap that you have no excuse not to. Please, 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 just try it. If you've got a cool idea, build it over the weekend with a buddy of yours and just see what happens. Show it on Hacker News and see the response because there's really no downside to it. And I think too many people are caught up with like, I don't know, they might obsess over or worry over that next stage, which is like, how do I scale this? How do I find funding? How do I do all this other stuff? Those are all things that will come once you've got some core idea, some core product that some people somewhere want. And so the first step is just keep iterating. Oh yeah. And on that note, don't be afraid to fail, which I I worried for a number of years about doing stuff that was bad. And then when I did stuff that was bad, I realized no one actually cared. Like let's say you create something that some idea, some product, something that no one uses, no one will know about it because no one used it. And it took me a while psychologically to get to sort of realize that. And I regret all the things that I wasn't messing around with because I was worried about, oh geez, now people are going to associate me with this epic failure. Now it's a little different. Like say when we were launching Hitmonk, Steve he was really, really nervous about launching Hitmonk because there were a lot of expectations after Reddit, and there was some standard set because of stuff he had done earlier. But let's say you're just fresh out of college. Trust me, there are no expectations on you. So please just create stuff.
Great. Well, Alexis, thanks for coming on the Startup Foundry. We really appreciate it.
Wow, damn, dude, 40 minutes? That
I know that went a little bit longer than what I was expecting.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm just surprised that I did not feel like 40 minutes. Oh, and I promised you a really extended F-bomb, right? So that you can bleep it out.
Yep, you did.
I don't want to make your life living hell, so I won't do it.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Oh, I hit my.
Well, Alexis, thank you for coming on, and I'm going to have to edit that part out now.
Yes.
All right. Hey, all the best.
Sure. Hey, my pleasure, Paul. I love what you're doing with Startup Foundry. The core principle of it, of just trying to make like a tech blog that's about like startups and that's actually useful and not just talking about Google, Facebook, Twitter, is very noble and very much needed. And I will say this, I want to say this now. I shot you an email pretty early on, right? To
Yeah,
say how excited I was about what you're doing. So I want to get that on there recorded so that I can take credit for all of your future success.
there you go.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Awesome.
got to me like 2 or 3 days after we launched, so.
That's 2 or 3 days too late, though. There were a bunch of other people who saw the potential before me then, and you need to attribute all of your success to them. Oh,
Well, hey, thanks a lot, Alexis.
all right. My pleasure, man.